welcome all of you for the webinar CHRO's Blueprint for Implementing AI in Recruitment. Um, Today we have a great panel with us, and we are looking forward to having all of you. Most of the attendees will join. So let's start. So nearly 4 in 5 companies are exploring AI recruitment, and only less than 20% have scaled it successfully. So there's a gap in the technology. It maybe could be strategy, governance, or change readiness. So today, with the fantastic panel we have, we'll be sharing a strategic playbook, and we'll be going over the conversation. So let's start with an opening goal. We would want to do a pulse check with all of you. Where are you in your recruitment journey? So you'll all have a poll on your screen right now. Vote and see where you are. Is it not started or running pilots, or are you doing partial implementation? So while everyone is here, I'll introduce the moderator for the day, Jose Leon. Jose brings 29 years of business transformation experience at the intersection of technology and creativity, having led growth initiatives at Dentsu, Publicis, and Adobe. As a CEO, board member, and growth architect, he understands the CSO imperative for measurable ROI and strategic alignment. His unique perspective bridges the gap between technical innovation and business impact. And for today, he'll be the moderator. Jose, over to you. You have the poll results with you as well as a starting point. Over to you.
Am I audible?
Yes, Jose, you are.
Yes.
Okay, super, brilliant. Have you started the poll? Sorry, I can't see it on my screen. Have you started the poll, Sai?
I have started, and to summarize that, 46% of the attendees have not started researching the AI in the AI recruitment journey, and 38 are in partial implementation.
Amazing. So 46% have not started, right? Is that what I hear? Sorry.
Yes, you're right.
Okay, all right, super. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for participating in this webinar today. People from India, good afternoon. People from joining from other parts of the world, good evening, good morning. Thank you so much for the introduction and the opportunity to be here. So let me jumpstart this webinar, right? It's called as the CHRO's Blueprint for Implementing AI, specifically in recruitment, right? So that's that's the desired outcome of the webinar and all our collective times on the call today. Thank you so much for being here once again. So CHROs, are standing at a crossroad today, right? Down one path you have the chaos of bring your own AI, where, because I was just reading a research paper that says 76% of recruiters in an organization is using some kind of AI, right? It could be for writing job descriptions. Frontline hiring managers could be using it for, kind of looking at, the resumes of, applicants. But there is some kind of, AI being used, but all of this is ungoverned. It feels productive, it looks innovative, but it's absolutely ungoverned, it's unmeasured, and obviously it is not scalable, right? On the other path, you have enterprise transformation, right? You have sanctioned tools, you have a governance, and there is AI adoption that can actually scale, right? To overcome this, this dichotomy, right? The biggest thing that as I was, kind of preparing to moderate this panel, I spoke to about 17 to 18 CHROs, right? One thing that, came across as common was that my CFO won't approve, budgets or investments in AI unless I show return on investments in 2 quarters, right? So that's one common thing that came across, and that's exactly what we will address today in this webinar, because thankfully Zappy has taken a lot of effort to bring in experts, right? We have a fantastic panel, as Said was sharing with all of you, who would kind of help converge onto how do you kind of implement a blueprint in your organization as far as AI is concerned, specifically for recruitment, right? With that context setting, let me take the opportunity of introducing you to our panelist. Starting with you, Payal. Payal brings about 18 years of people-first HR transformation experience in high-growth startups, in Fortune 500 companies, Spinny, Cash and Carry, Samsung, Vodafone. I hope I have not left out anything there. And she's recognized as a top 50 HR leaders in the country. Fantastic. Good afternoon, Payal. Looking forward to your wisdom on the call today. Moving on to Yogendra sir here, 25 years of leading HR across banking, finance, retail, FMCG, and that to all of this globally, not just in India. Currently, Yogendra sir is serving as the Chief People and Culture Officer for Afar Asia Bank. His core focus is around building governance frameworks and aligning talent strategies to business outcomes, right? That's critical, and that's why I said we have a fantastic panel for you to kind of converge onto a blueprint so that you could implement AI, because change management is a big part in implementing AI in the organization, right? Last but not the least, we have Deepu Xavier, who is the co-founder of ZappyHire. ZappyHire is one of the world's leading HR tech company. He's the co-founder of it and our host for the afternoon here. 20 years in technology, Stanford seed consultant, ET Young leader. He combines technical expertise of building scalable platforms with algorithmic transparency and ethical AI implementation. That's Deepu for you. Can all of you all see all the panelists hear us properly? All right, I see thumbs up there. Fantastic, cool. So how we have structured this, right? We have structured the entire webinar into 3 phases. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for all your thumbs up. Phase 1, we will look at structurally the scale, the ROI. We'll start with Payal because she comes with that experience of managing large thousands of people in our past assignments, right? And we will talk about strategic imperative and ROI, right? So that's what we'll start with, Payal. And once we've understood how strategic it is and how do you kind of look at ROI and scale, we move on to adoption, right? How do you look at adoption? And transformation cannot happen without adoption, right? So we move on to adoption. And then with the global experience that we have of Yogendra sir, we move to the question between a band-aid or a quick fix and a blueprint, right? How do you kind of structure this change management, and then move on to skill-based hiring, right? Because AI has completely changed. There's a significant or a fundamental shift in hiring, wherein everything is moving to a skill-based hiring, right? And that's critical, and that's we will kind of take wisdom from Yogendra sir to do. So this is how we will spend about 20 minutes of our time, in phase 1. And once we have done this, right, so we've understood the strategic imperative, we've understood how to run the ROI, we've looked at the change management, strategic input versus quick fix. We've looked at, how do you kind of quickly build, skill-based hiring? How does AI help you there, right? Once we have done this, the next, natural shift is to look at technology, right? How do you build the building blocks? How do you lay the building blocks of an enterprise level, transformation? And that's where, Deepu with his, all his tech skills comes in, right? So that's how we will look at phase 2. And phase 3, once we have laid down the foundation of technology, obviously comes adoption, governance, and that's how we will close the webinar, and then followed by question answers. Please keep typing all your questions into the Q&A pod. The moderators on the call at the back end will be looking at all the Q&A, and then we'll pick up Q&As after we finish the phase 3. With that, coming to you, Payal, the first question is around the strategic imperative, scale and ROI, right? Given your experience in scaling HR across thousands of employees in Spinny, Metro Cash and Carry, how do you think, Indian recruiters or recruiters across the world, right? Where do you think the life cycle of AI fits in, right? And where do you think, So that's one. And where do you think a tangible ROI can be achieved?
Thanks so much, Jose, for the very nice, warm introduction. I've got over 18 years of experience, like you mentioned, but slightly unique because I've changed so many companies, I've changed so many industries. I'm fairly proud about some of the experiences and learnings that I've gathered. And these are companies that are both fast-paced, new age organizations, as well as traditional companies. So in my experience, the fastest ROI came when we used AI to both solve for velocity as well as for volume. And we did not compromise quality. So both at Metro Cash and Carry, which is a large-scale wholesale German multinational, headquartered out of Bangalore, as well as Spinny, which is one of the largest car retailers for second-hand cars, based out of Gurgaon. We had adopted early AI interventions, both in screening as well as in scheduling. And this really helped reduce the turnaround time by more than 60%. So I kid you not, this significant milestone that we achieved. However, the real business impact that we saw was in improving the conversion to performance ratio. That is really how many of these employees who really reached the shop floor were successful and showed high productivity. Now, there are several AI tools out there. When we connected earlier, also I was mentioning that it's countless in number because these tools have just suddenly erupted in the last 2 years. And these adopt a combination of ChatGPT as well as generative AI. And they look at right from sourcing to shortlisting of candidates. And like you mentioned, earlier, it even looks at parsing resumes, creating job descriptions. So really, it makes the recruiter so much more efficient, right? When you rack, score, organize profiles, that removes a lot of their non-value added time and makes them more efficient and more productive. And that's where the recruiter's story really begins to scale up. There are also AI tools which really rank candidates based on skill adjacency, right? And skill adjacency is one part of it. The second part of it is really looking at past performance patterns. So the real game changer is in these two aspects. How are we able to marry both these? And we were able to see this not just in store roles, but also in sales roles. Store roles coming in from Metro Cash and Carry and sales roles in Spinny. So we have large workforces. It's my previous employment now, but large workforces that were based out of the hubs, and we had over 80 plus hubs, right? And so these were talent that had to be evaluated as soon as they hit the ground running, the first 90 days, the first 180 days. So when you hire the right kind of profiles, and these come to your hiring manager's desk, and we also see the efficiency that's coming in, that efficiency is actually translated to EBITDA. And that EBITDA is then in reduced attrition, higher retention. And that's exactly the lens that anyone at the board, anyone who has a financial acumen, sitting at a leadership position would want to look at, right? They want to really see how you measure the ROI, not just by the cost saved per hire, but also on how much sooner is the employee able to hit productivity, right? Then that's your real measure of a recruiter. So those are my thoughts on that.
Brilliant. Fantastic. So how about adoption, Payal? Once we have, kind of executed this, how do you ensure that, there is adoption across the organization and, and specifically for, people sitting in the corporate office, if it's a large organization or a dispersed organization with thousands of employees, how do you manage that? Am I audible? Sorry.
Just audible. I think Payal had.
I think my screen had suddenly gone into mute mode. Am I audible right now?
Yes, Payal, you are.
Okay. Okay. All right. So in adoption, technology is one part of it, okay? But rarely about the technology that one looks at when you're wearing an HR lens. It's more about trust and it's more about usability. that's there. So our recruiters actually must feel that AI that's coming in is not really looking to replace them, but it's more looking to enable them. And that's where it reduces the fear that's there. So if I look at the general experience of anyone who's looking to adopt AI, really you co-create and you make sure that the recruiters feel welcome and they are imbibing and embracing the whole adoption of AI, right? So when we looked at adoption success, when we looked to launch this, it was more around co-creation with the recruiters, making sure that there were AI tools that we had high-performing recruiters take on and create internal champions from that. But these high-performing recruiters would create their own workflow. So given that there are dime a dozen such AI tools that exist, if a recruiter is showing high performance, then we have them navigate these new AI tools, see that which tool, one tool doesn't fit all, right? So you want them to experiment a little, keep that ecosystem open for experimenting. The second thing that we realized was also on that how do we really create some micro learning capsules, right? An opportunity for any of these new recruiters who are coming on board, or even the existing recruiters, to not feel that, yes, technology is coming in, but it's more enabling for them. And so how do they really enhance and upgrade themselves? And that can be done through these shorter training programs or capsules. The longer workshops, someone will just probably tune off saying, oh, this is going to go on for hours. But you're looking at shorter capsules that really gives you the AI hacks that they're able to quickly look at and then see what more am I learning, how more am I able to understand CV passing, reduce the mundaneness of sourcing, and make sure that I'm channeling in the right kind of talent and have more time for meaningful interview conversations. So that was the second part. And the third part was if there's an opportunity for the AI tool that we have to also integrate very well with WhatsApp. People are so well versed with WhatsApp, business communication happens on WhatsApp. So is there an opportunity in which WhatsApp can integrate very seamlessly? Then we really saw an increase in the adoption. So these are the things that were our personal learnings from the whole aspect of AI adoption through the tools that we used.
Interesting. I've struggled to get compliance from my legal team to integrate anything with WhatsApp. But very interesting use case, by the way, Payal. So coming to you, Yogendra sir, we've kind of very interesting, right, of how we've kind of teed this off. Now, we would lean into your wisdom to help us navigate this, right? What is the most important part is strategic blueprint versus a quick fix, right? Leaders always kind of become either indecisive or they're struggling to kind of figure out how do you get immediate ROI, right? So how do you move beyond just automation of mundane administrative tasks, but something that is really meaningful that shows ROI to the C-suite? So how do you kind of navigate this?
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, Jose, and the Zappi Hire team for giving me this opportunity. So I'm from Mauritius, working from Mauritius. We are not just a tourist resort. We work hard here, and we have a very established financial hub, which today, if I give you the talent landscape, it's a full employment situation almost. We are attracting a lot of talent from India and from all part of the world to join us in Mauritius because it's an international financial hub. My experience with the AI started 2 years back. Obviously, we had a lot of pressure around attraction and retention of staff. There's high mobility of talents within the industry. Attrition was like 20%. And we had to move fast to be able really to respond to business exigencies. It was, I would say, the recruitment and selection was a bit the weakest link in the HR service at that time. And I was trying to wonder what I could do to sort out this, to fix this. And it was not about bringing more pair of hands. It was not helpful at all. And this is how I then started exploring AI solutions. And, AI, until today, the penetration is very low in Mauritius. We can say hardly 10% of penetration. And at that time, it was even a novelty, bringing AI to organizations 2 years back. So I was working for a Pan-African bank. And, with those big regional or global banks, the HR enterprise is very centralized. So I needed to go to the headquarters and say what I wanted to do. And obviously, lots of ego issue there, why Mauritius is doing that, and how much cost of money. We can't do that just for them, blah, blah, blah. And in the end, right, I got a no as answer, right? Because the enterprise solution was Workday, and it was important to work on an interface between the recruitment solution, which was ZapiHire, and Workday. And I guess the technology guy of HR head of technology was not too proud that Jürgen would be driving that novelty. And he said, no, we can't do that. So coming back, I said, what can we do now? And the only thing was to go back to my board in Mauritius and to tell them, look, we have a solution. We have an issue. We have a solution for that issue. We have thought about it, and we're going to explain to you why we want to do it and what is the value that we are going to get out of it. So for that, I partnered with the IT and the legal department because AI was still mystery. We needed to give comfort to the board, and it was I think a great idea to bring IT to really explore all the issues around ethics or around fraud or whatever, and also legal, to look at all the legal implications. Then I brought it to the board. So I had to build a compelling story, as we say, when we bring that to the board. And I think the first thing I did was to present it as really a transformation level, right? It was really about enablement. It was said an intelligent way of intelligent sourcing tool to be able to surface candidates with precise skills and culture fit and do the matching. So we did a comparison of how much time it would take to do it. We had to give a demo to the board to explain, and even I got the ZapiHire team to come and join me on that engagement with the board. And I think they were very, very much exigent on what the benefits would be. And this is where we prepared the benefits. We prepared about this, as I mentioned, the sourcing tools. We talked about the generation of interview operation, bulk interviews, and structured skills and analysis reports, and also a way of interacting with the candidates and follow up with candidates through AI chatbots and everything around the candidate experience. So in short, we position the AI strategy as transcending automation and moving from efficiency to adaptability, and really moving from a operational, as we say, HR operations to HR capacity building. Another move was also to position it as a strategic business enabler, right? Really building on and pushing for business growth. And for that, we had explained around turnaround time. What our SLA with business was 45 days excluding notice period, but we've been able to bring that down to 20 days excluding notice period, which was quite a noticeable improvement. I think the resilience that it shows being digital and really facing all types of situations was also something that we explained. And I think the third one was around the cost to value optimization. Obviously, it did make sense from a return on investment from what we were investing on the quality of candidate, the candidate experience, the employer brand. And I recall we even used it for a graduate program where we had 700 applicants, and we managed to do it end to end, bringing those 700 candidates to 20 candidates for a face-to-face interview within a lapse of, I think, 45 days. And the candidate experience was great. People were talking a lot about it. I think some said this was the best experience they had so far with such programs. So I think in a nutshell, positioning as a strategic transformation, relooking at also ways of working, because one of the things that we have been able to do was to review the business model of HR, really optimizing on business partnering, which were very much, sometimes going into operations, follow-up of recruitment and this and that. Then they could play a strategic role, but also we optimized on the bandwidth of line managers to do interviews. So we said we'll take only the 3 best candidates to the line manager for interviews. That way, you really optimize on management time to give priority to high caliber candidates. And I think this was something that was very much appreciated. So it did bring a lot of agility in the organization, and I think in the end, I would say that the AI strategy must move the organization from automating processes to augmenting capabilities to be able to accelerate business growth.
Joseph, I think you're on mute, probably.
So sorry, am I audible now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was very insightful. So I was saying, I know one could write a white paper on what you said, right? And I've been trying to take notes here. Efficiency to adaptability, fantastic, right? Operations, to capability building or capacity building. And you spoke about agility and TATs, right? Which clearly, added value to, the C-suite. And obviously, I hear a lot of hustling there between the board, between your IT teams. So yeah, very valuable, there, kind of helps us to kind of build a blueprint as we are structuring this, right? The other question, that we have to kind of structure and, start converging, so would be, there is a significant shift in hiring, right? Organizations are moving towards transferable skills or skill-based hiring, as it is called as, right? So what role do you think a HR leader should play in this significant or fundamental shift in hiring that we see today?
Thank you for that question. I think we are witnessing that what I call transformation, moving from role-based to skills-based recruitment, and especially looking at potential. And obviously, AI plays a pivotal role here to enable us to map what we call a skills ecosystem. You have organizations, for example, Standard Chartered, I know, have even written a book on skills-based organization. At Google, we know that hiring is increasingly being guided by capability mapping rather than really looking at experience requirements. And they even look at AI-driven analytics to predict what emerging skills will be critical in the coming years. Unilever does the same thing with a skills-based talent marketplace. So this shift, it is happening. And I think AI, what it does enable this shift by analyzing millions of data points, whether it's CVs, performance data points, learning histories, and identify patterns and transferable capabilities. I think one of the key priorities, if you look at whatever report, whether Gartner, especially, you will see that strategic workforce planning is becoming more and more a priority for CHROs going forward. And I think this is the backbone of that transformation, because through strategic workforce planning, what we are trying to do is to build a future fit organization. And and this enables a shift from what I call reactive recruitment to predictive talent management. So AI does a lot to enhance this, what I call SWP, because it allows mapping current and future skills from a demand and supply perspective. It also highlights the skills agencies. So, you know, what are the skills that are quite closer, moving, how do you move from a data analyst, for example, to a data scientist, and also the opportunity to help leaders, CHROs, to redesign roles based on the continuous evolving of organizations who are today, you know, currently transforming and becoming leaner and more agile. I think so. Those insights from the strategic workforce planning, it does allow us as HR, CHROs, or business leaders to be able to be proactively, I would say, build, buy, or borrow talent within the right set of skills, right? So it's a move, it's a shift from those rigid job descriptions to more dynamic skills taxonomies, and also a way to identify what are the transferable skills that traditional CV would often overlook. So, for example, you can have, if I take the example of Mauritius, where hospitality is big, you can have people with great empathy skills, agility skills, and emotional intelligence and stakeholder management, but who can also shift industry from hospitality to banking, for example, right? Which can make sense if you look at the right skill set. So I think this is where AI is becoming more helpful to focus on capabilities, behaviors, and learning agility. I think what is important is to look at the fairness side from a data-driven. I think AI does reduce the unconscious bias, and but it is important that HR continuously ensure that the data sets are inclusive and audited. So how can the CHRO help here? I think a couple of hats that the CHRO can help. The first is from an educator role to really demystify AI and helping HR managers to understand not only the tools but the skill set, and to be able to translate the AI outputs into business language for interpretation, explaining the skills relevance, and that AI is only an enhancer, but at the end of the day, judgment needs to be made by the human, by the line manager or the HR, rather than resting solely on AI. I think it's transformation. So change management is very important in terms of mindset, which is moving from a traditional experience-based hiring to a skills-based hiring. The coaching part also is important to be able to build managers' confidence through experimentation, and the ethical part, where you ensure that the AI assessments are transparent, validated, used to enhance human judgment, as I said earlier. So in short, I would say that AI enables to hire what truly matters: skills, potential, and adaptability, And CHRO's role is to humanize that shift.
Sure. So, we'll come to the, you mentioned about fairness and bias, right? So, Deepu, we'll come to you. Be prepared. It's one of the, burning questions and concerns that I have, received from all the CHROs I've spoken to. So, we'll come to you, Deepu, shortly. But Yogendra sir, you spoke about collaboration between IT and the board, and also right now you spoke about experimentation, right? So, how critical is this experimentation part, and how critical is it to kind of collaborate with business, because we are talking about moving away from outdated criteria of evaluation, right? To all the new criteria that you spoke about, right? So how critical, from a success standpoint, how critical is this experimentation part, and how critical is it to collaborate with your IT partner or your tech partner to do this in an organization?
I would say this is fundamental, right? This collaboration, because obviously it's a solution which has several components, right? It has the technology component, it has the HR part, it has the legal implication, and most important, I think it's still a mystery for most people today, right? So if you go to the board from an HR perspective solely and bring that, you'll have 1,000 questions, right? Have you liaised with technology? What have technology said? Are they agreeable? Are they comfortable with that? What about security? What about fraud? Blah blah blah. So on the other hand, I think the other thing is around the legal implication. So that's why I mentioned earlier that triad of HR, legal, and technology is critical that they collaborate, and I think the more collaboration there is in a co-creative and collaborative manner, the more confidence it gives to even the management team, right, to be able to adopt that strategy.
Got it. Very clear. I think that brings us to the end of phase one. Let's do a quick poll now. Said, if you can, take over and do a quick poll, and then we immediately after that start, our phase two. Said, over to you.
Sure. So let's take a poll. Which stage is the biggest bottleneck today for all of you? So the options are sourcing qualified candidates, screening volume, interview coordination, offer acceptance rates, and onboarding experience. So we'll wait for a minute for everyone to respond as soon as possible, and then we'll carry on the conversation. But so far, 53% have voted that sourcing qualified candidates is one of the biggest bottleneck today, followed by screening volume and acceptance rates.
Said, unfortunately, I cannot see the poll on my screen. So you will have to let me know, when to start and what's building up. So unfortunately, I'm missing the excitement of how the poll builds up. So
Sure. So sourcing qualified candidates is one of the biggest bottleneck issues. I'll close the poll. I think everyone who wanted to respond have responded. So as you can see on your screen, Joes, 54% have voted sourcing qualified candidates one of the biggest bottleneck, followed by screening volume.
Got it. Very clear. So we'll converge on this. Thank you so much for also participating in the polls as we are building this. So the first phase, as I said, was to kind of look at the strategic imperative. We teed off with Payal helping us build that. We then said that once the strategy is in place, once you've aligned it with overall strategic imperative, how do you kind of quickly look at adoption and digital transformation across the organization? Payal helped with her wisdom, her experience, explaining that. We came to Yogendra sir, who talked about how do we then put the blueprint together and start executing it, right? And some fantastic insights there of the triad he talked about, the collaboration he talked about, and the challenges and how you overcame that, right? That's sheer wisdom, right? So that's what we have done, and that beautifully, kind of helps us to get into the second phase of the webinar, where we are talking about the building blocks or the architecture or the technology part of it, right? And that's where Deepu, the founder for the platform that we are on, comes on, right? So Deepu, over to you. Drawing from your experience, right? You have seen, across in the last 2 decades, you have seen platforms, very legacy platforms, to Eclipse-based ecosystems, full stack AI-driven platforms, right? So, what do you think is the foundational that a AI-powered recruitment platform must establish in terms of all that was spoken before, right? We spoke about adoption, we spoke about scaling, we spoke about being agile, we spoke about how do you add value to the board. So how do you kind of lay that foundation, and how do you evolve at a rapid pace?
Sure. So thank you for that question. I think there's a lot of good points already raised by the panelist. So now the thing is that we are in an era where the moment we say AI in recruitment or AI in HR or any thing for that matter, people get so excited because things are changing overnight. The technology that we see today is different from the technology that we're going to see tomorrow, and we don't even know what's going to come day after tomorrow, right? So we are in a phase wherein things are changing at a rapid pace. But from a vantage point of a CHRO, when they look at any HR system, I mean, let's not restrict to recruitment per se, any HR system for that matter, what they should focus on, okay, I mean, it's understood that the features and the intelligence, the insights are important. But what they should actually look for is something which doesn't change overnight. The basic foundational things, I would say practically, when I look at whatever the limited journey I've been through. One, the system that you're going to adapt should be able to talk to each other. It should be able to consume the data from all the connected systems, whether it's a HRIS or a more sophisticated HRMS, or to a more intelligent manpower forecasting or manpower planning tool, or your performance appraisal system, leave management system. There is a lot that data can talk about, So when we're talking about AI adoption, one of the 3 main pillars that I believe in is, one, a fabric which is talking to each other, an interconnected ecosystem where the data from one system can fuel the prediction or intelligence of another system. Without that, we are building things in silos, and I think that's not the way that we really want things to, evolve. So basically, we're talking about a platform which is more unified and which has a more meaningful data architecture. Let's take the example of recruitment. So recruitment data, I mean, we've been seeing, I would say, more than 3 to 3.5 million candidate data over the past few years. It's chaotic. Recruitment data is inherently chaotic. You're talking about data from resume, you're talking about data from assessments, interviews, you're talking about some of the bias of the interviewers, bias of or lack of attentiveness of recruiters, behavioral cues, even video signals. You're talking about a lot of data. Now, what we need is a platform that can typically scale so that it brings together all the data, right? So that is something which we really need to take care of, point 1. Point 2, we're talking about explainability. See, of course, we get a little carried away when we see things like more intelligent, more powerful, more contextual. But the thing is that, is it explainable? Because the fascination is like, the moment we see the data, the moment we see some result, we are happy. But the next question, when you start using it on a day-to-day basis, you start asking yourself, can I trust the system? Is it actually giving me a real, genuine result? So the data has to be explainable. So as CHROs or HR leaders, we don't want black boxes. We want glass box. We want to see what happened under the hood. We really want to see what happened, right? So the second one, the first one being unified data architecture that can talk to each other. Second one, a glass box, if I may call it like that, rather than a black box, where I can see why this decision was taken. I have a solid basis. Right? If my HR leader comes and asks me, hey, Digu, why did you reject that candidate? I can't just say that, ChatGPT said, or Cloud Gemini told me to do that. No, I need to have a reason. All these LLMs are there to support that. And the third and the last one is basically governance. You need to look at now, just like mushrooms, right? You have a lot of those AI tools coming up in the industry. Now, the biggest question, are they compliant? Do they have enough governance in place? Now, governance is not something which has to be there on a piece of paper. It's not something which has to be there on a document which ensures that you are an ISO qualified, you are SOC certified, you are GDPR compliant. No, governance has to be in the code itself, I would say. It should be burned into the code of the platform that you're talking about. So as long as you're talking about a platform, as long as you're adopting whichever platform you're talking about, if the platform has a unified architecture, it can talk to each other, it can take the cues from other upstream and downstream systems, as long as it has a explainable result, and as long as they have a solid governance in place, I believe that these are the few things which, as HR leaders and CHROs, you should be concerned about before adopting a new platform.
Got it. Deepu, that sounded very technical for me if I was a CHRO, right? If you ask me, but I would like to steal your glass box to black box. I think that's a fantastic one. I'm going back to the first poll, right? 43% of the 32 participants that we see on the webinar here saying that they have not started or researching right yet. So I'm sure after the webinar we will be able to give them the blueprint with a very simple checklist of where to start from and how to progress, right? Because they have to, the learning from Yogendra sir, right? They have to go back, collaborate with the IT, with the legal, with the executive sponsor, to get all of this, moving.
Yep.
If we can help with, something like that, I think we will be sending a blue book or a playbook or something that they can use as a guide to start doing it, right?
Yes.
Which to the question that Yogendra sir talked about, right? Ethics and bias, right? It is a big pitfall, and that's a big concern that all CHROs talk about. In the algorithmic economy, as we keep saying, how do we move away from this? How do we ensure that? Because see, HR stands for ethics, right? And when it talks about bias mitigation, HR has to be the stakeholder there. So quickly, very short answer because we are running out of time. How do you think while laying the fundamental building blocks or the architecture of technology, how do we ensure that we are mitigating this bias or building to ethics?
Sure, I'll keep it very short. So basically, if you look at it, right, ethical oversight and having a lack of transparency into the algorithms is a key concern. I mean, that's something which is all over the place. Now, even if you look at the past data, like say what happened in Amazon, like you have this history of Amazon tried to implement something on the resume level screening and it went haywire. But if you look at it, it's not the problem with the AI, it's the problem with the human, because the data that was used to train this was human generated data. It was our decision. So the bias is not from AI, bias is from human. AI is just a tool that is using the data from the past. So now, to keep it very short, a few things which we take care of, I mean, from a platform, I'm a product guy, so sorry, there might be certain technical things, but I would say you have something called a data pipeline. Data pipeline is nothing but this is the data that we use for training any system. Now, the most important thing is ensure that this data pipeline is bias free. There should not be any gender bias, any ethnicity bias, geography bias, experience level bias, nothing. So how do you ensure is you have to keep on doing audit. You keep on doing audit at various stages of your data cleansing and data training pipelines, right? Now, other than that, another key thing is just like how we say HR. HR is basically human resources. And we always say that how much of a tech we are, human should be at the core and technology should be at the fore, right? So from that perspective, we always need to have human in loop. Before you take any decision, before you take a critical decision, how much of a technology you bring in, ensure that the human vets that decision, at least I would say for the next couple of years. And after that, I don't know, I mean, how things are going to shape up, but at least for the next couple of years, until the system is stable, until the AI is so mature that it can literally take a better decision than a human being. A human in the loop is the way to go about, I would say. So ensure that the data that you're using is bias free, and human in loop will ensure that you're actually not getting caught between that, lack of transparency in the decision making and oversight of the bias, I would say. In the interest of time, I would leave it there.
Super. Thank you so much, Deepu. Human at the core, Yogendra sir, human at the core, with your global experience around, governance and accountability. If human is at the core, how can we ensure that, once the AI is implemented, accountability is taken to the organization, and whatever decisions, AI is taking, it is kind of, adopted inside the organization, right? So how do we make sure, about this the human interface in an agentic organization?
Thank you for that question. I think I'll just relate to what Deepu just said, right? Obviously, AI systems today are not just assisting, they're acting, they are sourcing, they're shortlisting, they're even interviewing, and governance can't stay at the back office any longer, right? So it becomes a co-leadership responsibility, and CHROs must definitely architect governance structures to ensure that AI amplifies human judgment, but it doesn't replace it. So a couple of actions can be taken around putting in place a responsible AI framework with policies and processes, so that whenever AI is deployed in people decisions, we ensure that there is no bias. So we can look at transparency, look at explainability. Candidates can be engaged to explain about how things are going to happen in terms of the AI process. Recommendations need human checkpoints, right? Because judgment remains with the line manager. Deepu talked about the bias and fairness audit, which is important to ensure really that fairness and equity prevail at all levels. The data ethics and protocols need to be also looked at, and adherence to standards. For example, we talk a lot about GDPR. These are stuff that are helpful to be adhered to, and it's something that needs to be continuous. Just like in any organization, you have a governance framework to be looking at the business part. I think it's critical to have that in place to look at the AI part. I think big organizations are already doing it, to look at the likes of IBM, Google, or Microsoft. They have their frameworks, and I think it's helpful to do a search and do what are the types of work they are doing. And I think the HR leader, the CHROs, should be also keep being on their toes to be able to ensuring continuous education for the people managers. Also ensuring that the changes are being embedded, accepted, adopted, and ensuring that the payback is there, the efficiency is happening, and the returns of investment is being benefited. And also we talk a lot around bringing this humanism in the process. We can't leave it really rest to the AI part. I think more and more organizations, for example, our organization, make sure that even the CEO have a chat with the final selected candidate, right? So that's a way of ensuring that there is a human intervention in the process and ensure that we are having the right fit for the organization.
Thank you so much. Payal, we started with you, we'll end with you. We have spoken about, started with strategy, we spoke about the blueprint, we spoke about quick fix, we spoke about skill-based hiring. Then Deepu, talked about how do we ensure, love the, analogy that he gave. How do we ensure we lay the foundation? And now we're talking about human at the core, right? And the governance there. So naturally, we talk about the fact that there is a huge, significant training deficit, right? in the HR organization around AI, right? So how do we ensure that HR becomes a power user, right, inside the organization as far as AI is concerned? How do you get to driving that kind of an adoption? What's your experience around that?
Yeah, great question, Jose. So when I reflect back on my experience, and here I have a slight blip because for about a year and a half, I took a break. I started a family and then relocated to Dubai. And about close to a year ago, I started reevaluating, getting back to the corporate over here. I joined up with a healthcare organization, which I'm currently supporting. It's a new age organization based out of the US, and I'm working remotely here in Dubai. And it just got me shaken up about how they look at, new age tools, so much so that I had to quickly take an AI course. I signed up, in fact, for a marathon, did 3 courses together just to see what I'd missed out on in the last year and a half, right? And there's plenty. There are several AI courses out there, and it'll tell you that, hey, listen, you're missing out. You feel that, a FOMO that there's so much happened in the last year and a half, right? And then when you're trying to amalgamate some of this with your experience that you've drawn from over the years, you realize that some of it, there's the simplicity to, looking at new technology and looking at new adoptions. So if you look at technology, then we need to see that we are in an age where AI is here, and it is here to stay for the long term. So our mindset also has to be tailored to that approach, to say that AI will now be for the future. And so we want to build some digital fluency. Then I started reading up a lot of articles about why there's a need for any organization that works so closely with talent, upgrading talent, elevating them to new levels to try and create that efficiency and improve their productivity. And if you don't build it in with digital influence, right, bringing in the right kind of technologies at the right time, you feel that you're losing out in that whole race of being relevant, right? And I'm seeing that change already when I'm working in this organization compared to the organizations I was working in the past. And just that 1.5, 2 years has gotten that mindset shift. So
Absolutely.
a lot of organizations that have signed up for this webinar will realize that, hey, listen, if we're not thinking about it, this is really the point that we should. And as HR leaders, what we need to do is encourage people within our ecosystem so they become advocates, really, and they become the champions, what I'd highlighted about earlier. Is there a possibility for us to reflect on anything that we want to introduce, right? We can be change champions. We're not doing anything out of the ordinary. Yes, technology might be new, but we've introduced HRMS, HRS platforms in the past. All we're doing is integrating AI seamlessly into it. So is there a safe to experiment environment? My personal experience has been that if I look at new age startup organizations, I feel that the appetite for it is far higher compared to some of the traditional organizations. And you won't believe it, just before this webinar, half an hour before, I was chatting with someone who saw our post on LinkedIn, and they said, oh, we've got an HRMS, HRIS, but we don't have anything for recruitment. And I was like, oh man, you're already 10 years behind, right? And here we're talking about AI. So, of course, people need to really shift the gears and then see that, yes, we need to create that environment. And as HR leaders, we should go about doing that. We start off from the lowest level employees, make sure that they're able to thrive in that environment and not feel there's any kind of fear. Also, if there is opportunities that we can try and recognize some of these people who are doing a great job with this experiment.
Yeah.
The first part of it is creating the environment, the culture for experimenting. Then is if someone is taking that first leap, then go ahead and award those small successes, right? Is there a way in which we can recognize them? So it's not just adoption of AI, but it's adoption of the AI efficiently. Then it will lead to the outcome to suggest that, hey, listen, we are able to hire people. And then we can say that in the next 90 to 180 days, they are productive. I've also seen some of this happening with gamification, right? So if you put up a leaderboard or you put up a scorecard, a recruiter scorecard, and all of us have done that in our talent acquisition roles, or even evaluating, reviewing the teams on how productive they are, especially for organizations that are ramping up significantly. I recall my Vodafone days, we had to hire 450 people in 1.5 months. And that was back in the day in 2012, right? If I had an AI tool, I would have done it in a jiffy. Probably 2 resources would have done it. And I didn't need an army of people, both in-house as well as outsourced, to go ahead and hire those kind of people, right? And last, if I reflect back on my experience of driving high performance teams and driving a culture of high performance, then you have to link some kind of a goal system, right? If their goals are linked to performance within AI and looking at efficiency in AI, then you will see the recruiter being productive. Then you'll really see that the recruiter's performance is shining through, right? It becomes tangible. It's something that they can be measured on. It's like a sales guy. Recruiters are actually salespeople. They become the first point of contact, okay, advocating about the company, and at the same time also talking about the organization to attract that talent, to say, hey, listen, we are a great organization. We want to hire people on board. So you have to incentivize these people, and you can only incentivize it when it's tangible. So I really think that if you have to look at a bottom line in this, and the bottom line is that we as HR leaders have to be change agents, and we try and drive a culture where we are able to see AI efficiently being introduced and efficiently being, built into the system, so that our recruitment teams, our talent acquisition teams are really able to elevate that. Yeah.
Sure. Deepu, this is because see the training deficit is a big challenge, right? So what I'll request you in the blueprint that your team will create, and because Zapier is at the cutting edge of HR tech, right, globally, if you can include very simple learning path for CHROs and their teams to follow, so that you're contributing back to the ecosystem, and ensuring that this training deficit is getting addressed, right? And also Payal spoke about innovative KPIs, right? How can you bring in the culture where the goals are linked to some innovative KPIs for the HR organizations, so that the driving adoption and the alignment with the overall organization happens.
Sure, I think that's a valid point. Yeah, point taken, Jose. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. I think I've got a flag off from the organizer that that was the last question that I could ask. We have to quickly move to the Q&A. So I would need some help because I can't see the Q&A panel. What questions do we have and which panelist should take the question? If you can read the questions and point it out to one panelist, we can quickly look at the questions.
Sure. So let me start with the first question that Jitendra has asked. I'll project it on screen for everyone to see. This is also the offer dropouts is the biggest challenge. AI to assign probability of dropout may help bring down the challenge. I think this is more of a comment, but people want to add any comment on this regarding dropouts or offer dropouts? Like, how can AI also? Sure, Jose.
Yeah, no, I was just requesting Payal, because of the scale that you have managed, do you want to take this question around dropouts?
Sure. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
Okay, I can see a pop-up on my screen.
Yeah, that's the question. We are all getting used to the platform.
Yes, I don't dismiss it. Okay. So yeah, I worked in organizations where, yes, we've had about maybe 40 to 50% dropouts, especially in sales roles. I've worked in retail organizations also. It's such a pain point, especially if it's in the final stages post-offer. They're serving notice, and then obviously there are better opportunities out there for which they would want to move forward, or during the course of the interview process. That's something that we have looked at in every organization to try and put a Band-Aid on, but haven't been able to deep dive significantly on some of the reasons. But what we've gone ahead and successfully done is also introspected as to why the offer drops are so high. And the introspection then led us that, is there adequate information about the organization that's going out to a potential candidate? right? Is there a way in which we can engage the candidate better? So that engagement then leads to better responsiveness, attendance for interviews, and then understanding what our culture is. Because you'd rather have the offer dropout happening before they join the organization than after, right?
Yeah,
Because then there's a productivity loss. So I'm fine with someone who's not interested, though that's still, like I said, a band-aid option. But we need to deep dive and understand how organizations can better tell their story. And that's if there's a way in which through technology we can go ahead and do that, creating engagement pillars, opportunities of video testimonials, opportunities of, really getting content out there during the interview process that really walks them through the organization that they're joining. This is no new story. This is a story that's been around for decades where, offer drops. It's just that the opportunities are huge. If you look at tech organizations, it's a similar story that's out there because they're willing to change just for, financial motivation. Yeah.
Sure. I can see the second question. Many teams start their AI journey with tools like ChatGPT, but struggle to move from exploration to implementation. What are some actionable steps or frameworks TA leaders can follow to practically integrate AI into recruitment workflows, ensuring adoption is structured, ethical, and value-driven? Fantastic question. This is from Shikha. So, because there is specific mention of tools here, and Yogendra sir's experience, right? He spoke about the framework. Again, Deepu, request to you and your teams to also include some, you can call it the Zapier framework, right? Because if you are building the framework as the blueprint, right, if you could give a framework of how do we move from exploring tools, how do you evaluate, prioritize your use cases, and get into an implementation phase and steady phase and then transformation phase, that will help people like Shikha to execute, right? But if you want to, Deepu, quickly take a stab at the answer of how do you move from exploration to implementation.
Sure, I'll keep it short. So the way the question is framed, it sounds really like AI curiosity. So from AI curiosity to AI capability to AI adoption and AI championing. So these are 4 phases. You are curious first, then you explore, then you experiment it, and then finally move into adoption. So during that journey, each one of us is like, we look at AI as a tool. So rather than that, what we always say is that don't look at AI as a tool. You look at your use case. In my case, if it is hiring, the 2 mantra of hiring is hire fast, hire right. So whatever tool we are using, we have to see, is it helping me to improve the speed? Is it helping me to hire the right person, right? So the moment you have a KPI defined, that is speed and quality, from when it comes to recruitment, as Payal was mentioning, it's a number game. It's a sales role, right? You need to hire fast. So, but the other side of the coin is when you go fast, you may tend to hire not so right candidate, and the cost is extremely high. So how do we do that? Is forget about the capability of the tool, look at your use case and define your KPIs and pilot it, right? But while you're doing that, as I said earlier, ensure that you're choosing a platform which is compliant because your data matters. If you are a GDPR eligible market or not, but the security, where your data lies, where your data goes, what's the data subject's rights on the data, all this matters, right? You can't go to a very cheap economically cheap platform and then all of a sudden you get to know that, okay, your data is with somebody else. It's used for something else. So while you're moving from that AI curiosity to AI capability, have these things at the background that will help, to move that journey quickly and change the focus from tool to use case. Focus on the use case, then naturally you will have a set defined process to do it. I would say that is the easiest way to have a structured adoption, which is more ethical, value-driven, and result-oriented.
Sure. The other question we have is around sustainability. While we ponder times of keeping the AI play within ethical lines, I would like to know what options for the leading companies considering claiming the power and water hungry AI, drying up water resources and chugging the power grid. So it's around sustainability. I think this is from Jitendra, if I'm not mistaken, right? So Jitendra, I can take a stab at it, right? I think we touched upon it a bit, right? And there is no easy answer to this. And we as a resilient species will find an answer to this. But we talked about, Jitendra sir talked about human oversight, and being people at the core, right? So we will have to figure out how do we build a AI resilient organization, which is people at the core, not eliminating people. How do we, kind of wrap around the capabilities of AI with the decision-making skills of people, right? You're not eliminating people away, and that's how we can kind of create. There are a lot of white papers available around AI resilient organizations, which is all around sustainability. But there is no silver bullet yet, right? Because as you have seen, it's scaling so fast, right? It is every day there is a new announcement. Every day, 4 engines are connecting with themselves, and new use cases are building up, right? So it's not there is no straight answer to it, but I'm sure people are working towards to making sure that they're building AI resilient organization as they're scaling up. I can't see any other question on my pod here. Is there anything that how can AI be used to generate multiple dashboards efficiently? And is it a recommended practice?
So we have a couple of more questions. There's one from Pavan, which I'll project it, which says, for CXOs other than CHRO, people are mandatory, but recruitment is not a priority. How does CHRO get a buying from CXOs adopting AI in recruitment, apart from ROI and scale? That's a good question.
Good one. Payal, do you want to take this?
Yeah. So when you work with organizations, I think this has to be done in tandem with the board, in tandem with the CEO. So at the end of it, this is a business agenda, right? You have to get talent on board and ensure that the talent is productive. So building an efficient system, and I'm falling back to some of my initial comments, is how are we able to create the pipelines so that the entire recruitment process is seen as effective and productive. Because the board or anyone with a financial interest will want to look at the least cost, how you able to get the business rolling and how you able to get people productive. Because they are not so interested in what happens behind the scene, right? What kind of talent, where are they being sourced from, how many candidates were interviewed to finally fulfill the position. They want to make sure that the talent is there on board. And that's where there's a vested interest. And so as an HR leader, when you wear that cap, you need to empathize and understand from their situation that this is the need of the hour to try and get talent on board very quickly. And so if there is an investment that needs to be made within AI, then I think with a little bit of experimenting, but more outcome driven, more results oriented, I think that's the approach that we should look at. So
Sure.
Sponsorship should come in from the HR leader, because they are really walking the talk and saying that this is something that they're advocating, the need of the hour, and it will make the system more efficient. And that's what the organization wants at this point in time.
Yeah. So just thank you, Payal. This is from Pavan, right? Pavan, I don't know you were throughout the webinar, but we spoke about, Yogendra sir spoke about the triad between legal, HR, and tech, and Payal also talked about how do we collaborate with the organization to bring this forward. I think we will fantastic question. This is something that you always run into. We'll make sure that we introduce something around this as well in the playbook that we can download. Last question I think we can take from Priyanka: how can AI be used to generate multiple dashboards efficiently and as a recommended practice? AI dashboards is always the best thing that can happen specifically for executives, for managers to look at and take decisions. Absolutely highly recommended, and AI can do this. Walk in the park. Priyanka, must do. Is that the time to go? I'm getting.
Yeah,
Sai?
I think that we should wrap up. I think it's already late, and we'll just do the closing. So first of all, thank you, Jose, thank you, Payal, thank you, Yokendra sir, thank you, Deepu, for joining in. I think the conversation was very insightful, and those who have joined and are still remaining, I would have learned a lot. And so before we wrap up, I want to share a few important things with the audience. That first, as a thank you for joining the session, you'll all be receiving early access to the exclusive ebook that have been mentioned throughout the webinar, which is on CHRO's blueprint for implementing AI in recruitment for CHROs. The Zappy Hire team will be sending this to all the attendees by the end of the week, maybe by tomorrow or Friday morning. So keep an eye on your inbox. Second, if you want to visit any insights or revisit any insights from the session today, we'll be sending you the full webinar recording, so you can peruse through it as per your timing. And third, and something that for all of you that you're here and spending your hard-earned time or precious time in recognition for your commitment to staying at the forefront of HRW, we'll be sending you a certificate recognition which acknowledges your drive to continuously learn and evolve in this rapidly changing landscape. We'll also send that along in with the recording in your inbox. Finally, last thing, I request each and everyone who are here to share your 3 takeaways from the webinar that you like from everyone else during the conversation, and tag Jose, tag Payal, tag Yukinder, tag Deepu, and tag Zappy Hire. And we'll be using your codes throughout the collage in our future ebooks, etc. And your insights in the ebooks, what we talked about today, might also be included in the coming ebooks to come. So with that, I want to thank you again, all of you, Jose, Payal, Deepu, and Yokinder sir. If you have any closing remarks, please do so. But that's it from our end. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Take care. Bye bye.
It's been a real pleasure. Thank you.
Much.
Nice
Bye-bye.
evening. Bye bye.